And we call to convene the Mobile Source Committee meeting for January 21st, 2019. The first item of action is the approval of funds to continue the year-round lawnmower program.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Baskin Yardemian, Program Supervisor in Technology Advancement Office. The item before you is to approve funds to continue the South Coast AQMD's year-round electric lawnmower rebate program. In April of 2017, the South Coast AQMD launched a year-round electric lawnmower rebate program on a first-come, first-served basis, open to residents living in the South Coast AQMD jurisdiction. In the program, the public has the flexibility of purchasing a new cordless battery electric lawnmower through an extensive list of authorized dealers and retailers, including hardware stores as well as home improvement stores. And the purchase can be made online or in store. And then they take their old gasoline lawnmower to one of AQMD's participating dismantler for permanent destruction. And once an online application is submitted to South Coast AQMD, a rebate check is issued ranging from $150 to $250. The rebate amount is based on the retail purchase price of the electric lawnmower, excluding fees as well as delivery charges. The rebate amount is $150 for a purchase price of $250 or less, $200 for a purchase price of more than $250 up to $400, and $250 for a purchase price of more than $400. In the first 2 years, the South Coast issued over 1,000 rebates, and we noticed that from 2017 to 2018, there was 60% increase in the number of rebate applications. 60% of the participants purchased their electric lawnmowers in store versus 40% online, and participants from over 110 cities and unincorporated areas in 4 counties participated in this program. There were 20 companies.
Excuse me, I hate to interrupt, but have you got the breakdown on what percentage was in what counties?
Yes, it's going to come in the next few slides.
Okay.
There were 20 companies manufacturing cordless electric lawnmowers when this program was launched in April 2017. There are now nearly 30 companies, which reflects the growing demand and the market competition for such cleaner technologies. This is the rebate amounts by percentage. The vast majority, 89% of the applicants, purchased the more expensive lawnmowers, which in turn provided the larger rebate to the consumer. Only 11% of the participants purchased lawnmowers $250 or less. And an average electric lawnmower costs between $300 to $400. As I mentioned, 60% of the participants purchased from these lawnmowers in store versus 40% online. And the majority of the stores they used is Home Depot, Lowe's, and Ace Hardware stores. And as far as 40% online purchases were done again through Home Depot's website, Amazon, and as well as Ace Hardware stores. This is the number of the participants per county. As you see, 40% of the participants were from LA County, 28% were from Orange County, 17% from Riverside County, and 15% from San Bernardino County.
For those numbers to be relevant, go back to the last slide. for those numbers to be relevant, you'd have to put them against the population of those counties. I mean, those numbers don't mean anything because 403 in Los Angeles County may be a less per capita than 150 for San Bernardino.
Definitely.
That's true.
We can do that. That's no problem. Yeah, we can calculate.
Yeah, but you should do it because I'm sure that the people from Riverside and San Bernardino want to know why they only got 310 and LA County got 403. And what you're going to do to increase their proportional share of distribution if it is out of line with their population. That would be my question if I lived in Riverside or San Bernardino.
Okay, we can calculate that, Dr. Burke.
Dr. Burke, it's also a function of increased outreach. And one of the things that we're actually working on right now is how can we enhance that outreach? So I think we'll have an answer to your question, both in terms of per capita numbers and where we need to make the improvement in terms of outreach.
Okay. Look, I mean, if these programs are going to run on balance, they have to be equitable. Now, equitable doesn't necessarily mean the same number, but it definitely means the same number per capita. It would seem to me. And that's the same thing that people are saying on this sales tax thing. They just want their share per capita.
Understood.
Okay. I'd like to get those numbers ASAP.
Okay,
We get those today.
sure. I can do
We'll get those to you today, Dr. Burke.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I have the remaining 2 slides, please?
Mr. Chair, I might clarify. For instance, in San Bernardino County, it wouldn't be the entire county. It would be through the county that's in the South Coast District.
Right.
We have those numbers.
Yes.
Can I have my slides, please?
To the bar chart. To the bar chart.
Okay, staff proposes to continue this year-round electric lawnmower rebate program for residents in the South Coast AQMD's jurisdiction. And when this program was launched in April 2017, the board approved an initial funding allocation of $250,000, and staff recommends allocation of additional funds to continue this program. So the recommended action is to approve $250,000 from Rule 2202 Air Quality Investment Fund 27 to continue the electric lawnmower rebate program. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Supervisor Bartlett here wants to chime in. Can I be recognized to speak?
Dr. Burke, you're on mute.
All right, I think this is a fantastic program. Really excited about it. And once it gets approved by the full board at AQMD, I look forward to putting all of the information into I have a weekly newsletter that goes out every Friday, and looking forward, along with our county departments, to actually push this out to our residents. I understand, where Dr. Burke is coming from with regard to the per capita. LA County has about 3 times the population of Orange County. Yet when you take a look at the number of rebates, we're only about 100 behind LA County, Orange County versus LA County, because it's a first come, first serve. I'm not sure breaking it down on a per capita basis would be the most equitable, because it's a matter of people who want to get a lawnmower and sign up for the rebate. And we had quite a few that really participated from Orange County. So, and trying to make an equitable arrangement here, trying to figure out what is best. I would love to get everybody else's thoughts on this. I mean, I would just as soon keep it on a first come, first served basis until the 250 is expended.
And if I might, Mr. Chair, along those lines, you have to consider that in San Bernardino County, the population is such that we don't have a lot of, for instance, a lot of gardeners out there doing lawn service, and it's a poor population, if you will, in general. So I'm sort of agreeing with Supervisor Bartlett that I'm not sure per capita is the way to maybe look at it, and I don't know what the best way is.
All right.
Supervisor Perez.
How you doing, sir? Mr. Chair and
How you doing?
members, I apologize. I was on the road. I was listening in, and then I had to jump into my office, and finally I'm here. So appreciate the conversation. I heard a little bit of it. And I heard Dr. Burke point about equity. You know, and there is a difference between equity and equality. Right? And I do think that every area should receive their fair share. I don't know what that funding formula is. You know, I don't know how we make it add all up, but at the same time, I do think it's important that everyone does receive their fair share. I think you brought up the other point as well, Dr. Burke, around the concerns around our tax measure, right? Everyone, in order for us to make sure that we get as much support as possible throughout all our counties, everyone needs to feel like they're receiving their fair share. I think it's the same
No
situation here. I don't also want to, I know that this is for approval today, and if perhaps we need to tweak that funding formula for next go around, whenever that is, I can support that as well. But if there's an opportunity to try to make changes now, I'm all for it. I don't want to hold up the program, but if there's a way we can do this, I'm all for it.
I think we can transfer the money and tinker with a formula and when I said evaluate it on a per capita basis, I didn't mean to change it from a first come, first served basis. I just want to make sure that there's enough outreach in those counties who are currently not receiving their equitable share so that they are encouraged to participate in the program. Can you tell me how long this program has been going on?
For more than 2 years, since April 2017.
So Dr. Burke, we can provide some additional information on the outreach. I think that when you look at this in
Wait a minute,
total,
I'm confused.
The lawnmower program. Overall.
The lawnmower program, before this, it was lawnmower exchange program, which the district had for the 14 consecutive years. However, in 2017, we modified the program into rebate program because the last 2 years of that program, the numbers were declining due to a drought in California. So we modified the program into a rebate program on a first come, first served basis.
Well then,
Yes. Instead of exchanging.
my question still stands. When did the program start? Before you modified it?
The original program started 16 years ago.
2003.
Wow.
However, the last 2 years, it has become a rebate program instead of an exchange program, which we have done it.
And I don't remember, is that a policy decision?
It came to this mobile source committee to modify the program and we changed it to rebate.
Then did it come to the full board?
Yes,
yes.
Because I don't remember that.
it was in April 2017.
It could have, I'm not saying it didn't, but I don't remember that. Because I don't know how you modify a program that's been going on for 16 years without board approval.
It went to the board, Dr. Burke.
Okay.
But Dr. Burke, the point that you make in terms of outreach, I mean, when you think about it, 1,000 units over the last 2 years at an area of 17 million, even for a 16-year duration program, that's not very much. So I think it's important for us to reevaluate our outreach. Drew can talk about our outreach efforts we've had thus far, but what I'd like to
Or
do,
maybe the program itself.
I think we can look at both, but I think that the outreach is critical in this aspect. And so, if
Okay,
you don't mind,
let's
I'd like
talk
to have,
about the outreach.
okay.
Well, when the program initially launched, we worked with the larger home improvement companies like Lowe's and Home Depot, and as well as some of the like Walmart that has online programs and stuff. We're producing point of purchase where people could pull them off and take back for their rebate and consider them. We did an e-blast to 16,000 individuals who expressed interest or had participated previously in the seasonal program. One of the biggest points too that's different is this is a year-round program versus only one offered in the spring, and we heard repeatedly that's what people wanted, and that's part of why we moved to a rebate program, so that we could offer it year-round. We created a video that explained the program that we put on our website. We also provided that video to various cities that could put it on their websites. Then we produced a follow-up video about how to actually go through the rebate process and apply. We also designed a survey at the end of the process so that we could get feedback. Basically what we're hearing, in addition to that, of course, Public Affairs and TAO are at many different events throughout the 4 counties where we are promoting our incentive and rebate programs for residential customers. A couple of the outreach that we just recently did this year, we were in Riverside at a community workshop and we were promoting the lawnmower rebate program. We were in Coachella Valley at an EJ event in February. In March, we were at the Highland Citrus Harvest Festival and 2 events in Fontana, Lunch and Learn Workshop and a STEM event. In April, we were at the ACT Expo, where, and for that one, we actually had just produced, because we wanted to get more outreach, a 6-foot pull-up promoting the residential programs, including the lawnmower rebate. And we were also at the City of Diamond Bar's Earth Day event here. So, okay.
Thank you.
If I might, Dr. Burke, so
Yes, Larry.
the numbers that are shown here do not reflect the entire program. And I think that may be important to look, if it's been going for 16 years, well, how does the exchange program fold into these numbers, and how does that work out for the entire program? Because this is only the last 2 years.
Right.
If we're looking at equity, then we should look at the entire program.
I agree. I agree.
I appreciate the outreach that was taken, especially coming out here. I know it's a little far. Now I'm asking the outreach efforts, was there any coordination perhaps with county administrators, like let's say the County Department of Public Health or Environmental Health, or just to get the word out? And what languages was the outreach? Was it only in English? Did you also have Spanish, other languages? Just trying to understand that piece of the puzzle.
As far as the flyers, they were printed in 4 languages: English, Spanish, Chinese, and Korean.
All right.
Outreach to counties.
I know that we've done outreach to the cities, and it is on several city websites and city newsletters that included. I'm not sure about the counties, but check on that.
All right, just moving forward, I think this is where we could collaborate a little more, right? Is with the counties, that is Department of Public Health, maybe Environmental Health. I don't know. There's others, I'm sure. Just so we can get more word out to the communities.
We can do that.
So maybe we should do an entire evaluation.
Right. I agree with the supervisor. It was me that started this program 16 years ago. I was trying to figure out how long ago it happened. And to be honest, I just lost track of it. So maybe we ought to evaluate the whole thing and see if it's still worth the money that we're putting into it, since the number of units don't seem to be overwhelming. Because I remember when we first started this program, we stopped traffic. There were lines down the street for blocks to get these lawnmowers. And now we're doing 1,000 a year. That's not a good sign.
Well, it could be because everybody's going to drought-tolerant plants. So lawn care is going downhill. That's just a possibility. But Dr. Burke, there have been over 55,000 units placed over that 16 years. But I agree, I think.
55,000?
Yes.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So we agree we can do that evaluation. I think we can do the evaluation with regards to ongoing outreach, how we can enhance and increase those efforts. And I think the question before you is, do you want to continue the program while that reevaluation proceeds, or do you want to have that before?
I think we should continue it while the evaluation proceeds.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't interrupt it.
Okay?
I
So
support that.
then can we get a motion on item number 1?
I'll move approval.
Second?
Second.
Would the clerk call the roll?
Supervisor Bartlett?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem McCallum?
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell?
Yes.
Supervisor Perez?
Aye.
And Dr. Burke?
Yes.
Point of parliament.
Motion passes
Want to
5-0.
comment on this item?
Yes.
You can't put in a card, Harvey, in the middle of a vote. That's not the way it works. Now, let me check with the
Dr.
legal
Burke,
counsel.
You did not ask for public comment, so I had no alternative.
You're absolutely right.
So am I getting?
Okay. Legal? Send him to the podium. Send him to the podium.
Hold on, Harvey.
Harvey, were there
Yes.
other items that you were going to talk about? Is it- Because
Yes, but I've got to go over those. I don't want to talk on this one. I will look at the others. It's not going to be too long.
So, Dr. Burke?
Yes.
So, we have a number of items on the agenda. Generally, for the governing board meetings, we give somebody 3 minutes to address all items on the consent calendar and the board agenda and the board calendar. These items would all, I believe, essentially be on the board or consent calendar items. So I would recommend a similar policy, at least for this meeting, and possibly going forward of 3 minutes.
I'm in favor of that.
Well, I'm not. I think it takes away my civil rights and our civil rights.
So, Harvey,
But-
want to speak on agenda item number 1? Is that the only
I'll
item?
speak on it for half a minute and reserve my other 2.5 minutes on these other items.
On the other agenda items?
Yes.
Noticed items.
Okay.
All right.
My name's Harvey Etter. I'm talking for myself and for the Public Solar Power Coalition. We did a study 40 years ago, the first done in the state, about equity and energy and environment, the low-income solar equity program. And we said in there that in this culture, and the issue was brought up by a supervisor, that there's a difference between equality and equity. And unfortunately, the more equity, the more things you own, the more equality you have.
30 seconds is expired.
All right, and this has to be looked at all the future processes you're looking at of equity issues, which is basically understand half no on policy under Newsom and the other half environment.
Harvey, if you're going to comment on this, could you give the word out?
I've got to go now.
Thank you.
Okay, since we had public testimony, let's take the vote again. Would the clerk call the roll?
Supervisor Bartlett?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Collins,
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell,
Yes.
Supervisor Perez,
Yes.
Supervisor Dr. Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay. Item number 2, Ms. Reese.
Good morning, Dr. Burke and members of the committee. Slides? Great. So I'm here to ask for authorization to execute a contract to evaluate meteorological factors and trends contributing to poor air quality in the Southwest Air Basin. Just a quick reminder of what the study is. We've observed increasing trends in ozone as well as a slowing down of the gains we've been able to get in PM 2.5 levels over time. We want to evaluate what effect meteorological factors and weather is having in those trends and see what that could do for the future for us. Just a quick recap of the selection process for the contractor. We released our RFP back in November of 2018. Applications closed the end of February. Our review panel was approved April of 2019, and then today we're talking about our staff recommendation. We received 6 proposals from various academic institutions as well as from one contractor. And our panel consisted of 2 air quality specialists from the district, 1 research and modeling manager from Bay Area Air Quality Management District, and an engineer from CAR. 3 of the 6 proposals passed our minimal technical criteria, and the proposal that we received from University of California, Riverside was second highest in both technical criterion cost, or highest, I'm sorry, in technical criterion cost. So here's the rankings that we have for the 3 proposals that were deemed technically qualified. And the proposal from University of California, Riverside stood out for a couple of factors, but probably the biggest factor is it's the understanding of the problem that they demonstrated in their proposal, very high-level detail and specificity in their work plan, their experience with atmospheric chemistry and physics, and just their extensive experience overall with the air quality issues in Southern California. And they also will be making their preliminary results available within 1 year from the contract execution. So with that, our recommendation is you authorize our executive officer to execute this contract with University of California, Riverside, and it would be in an amount not to exceed $188,000. With that, I'll take any questions.
Is this a modification in who signs the contracts policy?
No change in policy.
So, Dr. Burke, this is Barbara. Can I address that?
Yes.
So, the general rule is that the executive officer only has authority to execute contracts up to $75,000, and those that are over $75,000 are signed by the chairman. On occasion, the staff will recommend that the board delegate that authority to the executive officer just as a matter of convenience, but it's not required. If you feel uncomfortable with it, it certainly can be left as the chairman executing the contract.
Okay. I'm okay with it. Is there any discussion on this item?
Dr. Burke? Yes, if I
Go
might.
UCR.
If I get a motion on this item then?
Dr. Burke?
So moved.
Dr. Burke?
There's Supervisor Perez?
No,
I just wanted to move the item, but I guess there's someone waiting to speak,
Okay.
I think.
Great. We have a motion and a second. Would the clerk call the roll?
Dr. Burke?
Mayor McCallum has some
I just want to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mayor McCallum.
I just want to make a comment. You know, the ozone hotspot has been moving west, and it's, you know, the days of exceedance in San Bernardino, etc., has gone up. And as I brought up before, I'm still concerned that there's an imbalance between the NOx and the VOC, that we're over-regulating NOx at this point compared to VOC. That needs to be looked at, in my view.
The study the study will have modeling that includes that factor. It's mostly on meteorology, but that's going to be part of the mix as well.
Mr. Chairman, we probably have a public comment here from Harvey Eder.
Okay. Do we have any public comment there?
Yes.
Hello, ditto, and what I said before. Good morning. In reference to what just, excuse me?
I'm sorry.
On two?
How much time do you want?
30 seconds on two.
Okay.
In reference to the supervisor's comments about VOC and NOx, also we've got to look at PM, ultrafines. That's where the body count is for the district, the 4,400 deaths that are $40 billion a year for the district, over $1 trillion over 30 years. So that's important, and also looking at toxics from natural gas, which has been ignored in the responsibility of the district, benzene, formaldehyde, etc.
30 seconds has expired.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move approval.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Okay, would the clerk call the roll?
Supervisor Bartlett?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Allen?
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell?
Yes.
Supervisor Perez?
Aye.
Dr. Burke?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
I forgot to check if we have public comment. Would you like to say anything? Okay. We have a guest today, so it's so unusual that I forgot to ask her if she wanted to make public comment, but she declined. Dr. Fine?
Yes, good
You
morning.
have 3 items here.
Well, it's the first one will take most of the time. Good morning, Dr. Burke, members of the committee. I'm just going to provide an informational update on where we stand towards our progress towards meeting the federal ambient air quality standards for PM 2.5. And as you just heard from Harvey, PM 2.5 is one of the 2 criteria pollutants for which we still, struggle to reach attainment. And as Harvey mentioned, the exposure to PM 2.5 does drive the majority of the adverse health outcomes in our basin, including the premature death outcome that was mentioned. There are 2 different federal PM 2.5 standards. There's an annual standard and a 24-hour standard. So one is roughly an annual average, and one looks at kind of the set of highest days per year. That's the 24-hour standard. The current annual standard is set at 12 micrograms per cubic meter. That replaced a previous standard of 15 micrograms per cubic meter that had been revoked, although we did actually meet that standard on time. You often hear that we have never met an ambient air quality standard. This is one standard we did meet on time, although at about the same time we were meeting it, the federal government set a new standard, a tighter. Of course, you have more time to meet it. And then the 24-hour standard of 35 micrograms per cubic meter, there was a previous standard here also, which we did meet, but we still do not attain for either the 12 microgram per cubic meter annual or the 24-hour standard at 35. There are lots of factors that influence PM 2.5. Obviously, emissions are a big part of it. There's man-made sources as well as natural sources. Natural sources include wildfires, sea salt, vegetation. Man-made sources are all our typical sources, but for PM 2.5, unlike NOx, mobile sources are a big part of it, but we have other sources like paved road dust and other dust and fireworks and residential wood burning, which are a bigger part of the PM 2.5 mix. The other thing about PM 2.5 is most of it in Southern California is not directly emitted from sources. Most of it is actually formed in the atmosphere from NOx, from SOx emissions, from VOC emissions. So on any given day, anywhere from 50 to 80% of the PM 2.5 in the atmosphere is actually formed in the atmosphere and not emitted directly. So it's those gases that are emitted that contribute to PM 2.5. And then, as you'll see in this presentation and have heard previously, weather is a big factor in PM 2.5 levels. The level of storm activity over our winter season is very important. Rainfall washes out the atmosphere. A lot of unstable weather mixes the atmosphere and dilutes the concentrations. Stagnant conditions, on the other hand, will trap PM 2.5 near the ground. Humidity has an effect, sunlight has an effect, and again, how much of these conditions are being influenced by longer-term climate trends is still an open question. So I'm going to start with the 24-hour standard and looking first at what happened last year in 2018, and then I'll put it in context with some longer-term trends. So I know this is a busy slide, but the way to read this is on the left is every site that we measure PM 2.5 down the left side, and then month by month, how many days in each month were above 35, or technically 35.4 is what the standard is. So for instance, you can see the first line there is Mira Loma. We had 2 days in January of 2018 that exceeded the standard, and then nothing else all year long until 4 days in December exceeded the standard. And then you can look at every different site that we have these measurements across the basin. So one thing to notice is that everything in blue here are days that exceed the standard. Stagnant conditions, could have been wood burning, meteorology wasn't good, there were emissions. Those are exceedances. What you see in red are days that exceeded but were potentially what's known as an exceptional event. This could be a wildfire, and I'll talk about that in a moment, or it could be fireworks on the night of 4th of July or 5th of July. And those can potentially be excluded from consideration whether we meet a standard or not due to EPA's exceptional event policy. So you can see a pretty clean year. I'll show this data in a couple different ways. But just for a moment, exceptional events. EPA defines exceptional events as events that result from emissions that affect air quality. You have to show that there's a clear and causal relationship between the event and the exceedance. It needs to be not reasonably controllable or preventable. So a wildfire, in most cases, qualifies. And it needs to be caused by a human activity that is unlikely to recur at a particular location, or a natural event. Could be like a dust storm. And it's not mentioned here is ceremonial events, 4th of July qualifying. It can also be considered an exceptional event. And when you're determining whether you meet a standard or not meet a standard, whether you're in attainment of a federal standard or not, you have to put in a request for EPA to approve it as an exceptional event. It's not an easy process. It's a documentation package that can be quite extensive. We can make the request, EPA would have to approve. So what we're judged by when we're looking at the 24-hour standard is something called a design value. I've talked about this at committee before. It's not necessarily just a straightforward calculation. Essentially, you look at the previous 3 years of data at any individual site. You look at the previous 3 years of data, and you look at not the highest value in that year in each site, but what's known as the 98th percentile, which is roughly about the 7th or 8th highest value at that site. You look at that value across 3 years, you average it. If it's above the standard, if that site does not attain. If it's below the standard, it does attain. And the design value for the whole basin is your highest site. So as you'll see, Mira Loma for many, many years has been what we call our design value site because that has had our highest design value. If we just look at 2018 data again across all the sites here, and we look at the 98th percentile, which for most sites is the 7th highest. Some sites don't measure every day, but the ones that do, it's about the 7th or 8th highest. You can see for one single year, not the 3-year period, in 2018, every site met this standard. So that's a big accomplishment. Every site, it's not a 3-year average, but in 1 year, we did not exceed the standard by the design value calculation in the basin. Another thing to notice here is that Mira Loma has been our highest site for many, many years. In this last year, you see Compton is about equivalent to that. So when we've seen this in 2017 as well, that there's that Compton has kind of poked up a little bit, and there's some issues there that we can talk about. But in any case, 2018, a pretty good year for PM 2.5. If we had 2 more years like this, we would be able to say we attain the standard. And then again, starting to get complicated here, but this is more looking at the long-term trends. So the way to read this chart is that the number of days that exceeded the standard at any site in the basin, doesn't matter whether it's Mira Loma or Compton or anywhere else, year by year, month by month. So the way to read this is in year 2000, in January, we had 16 days that exceeded the standard, and then going throughout the year, up to December, 15 days that exceeded the standard, 109 total days that exceeded the standard, while going all the way through 2018, we only had 19 days that exceeded the standard, again, mostly in the wintertime, January, November, and December. The other thing to notice here, if you kind of focus in on 2013, 2014 time period, how relatively green those lines are and how few days exceeded the standard, only 11 days and 12 days in 2013, 2014. And then you see 2015, 2016, 2017, 30 days, and back up to 19 days in a couple years. So this was that drought period that we had talked about in previous committee meetings where the lack of rain led to this kind of reversal in trend. The good news is 2019, thus far, very preliminary. It's been very clean. We only had 2 days in January and nothing since. We will hopefully, if we get a clean year and through December, we're going to be very, very close, if not meeting the standard in 2019. And again, just looking at these trends here, another way, 2011, 2012, we were just on the verge of meeting the standard. 2013, we had that reversal beginning in 2014, and then now the trends are coming back down. I'm noted on this chart are what we call the design value sites. So you can see in the past it had been San Bernardino area, and then Mira Loma, and now Mira Loma and Compton, and in 2018 it looks like Compton was just a little bit higher than Mira Loma. So the design value site can shift a little bit. Other thing to notice on this chart is our attainment year is actually 2019. So our deadline to meet the standards by the end of this year. So just like in 2011, 2012, 2013, we're right on the edge. And it could be due to a particular exceptional event decision of whether we attain or not. So we're working closely with EPA on that. It could come down to 1 day and 1 decision. So just as a summary for 24-hour PM 2.5, again, 2018, all 98 percentile values were below the standard. So we had a clean year. If we had 3 years like that, we attained the standard. There were, so far this year, only 2 very close days, but that's pretty good for this time of year. And if we get a decent winter season with some rain, it looks like we'll have another clean year. But to attain by 2019, we have to look all the way back to 2017. We need 3 years of clean. So there are some issues in 2017, especially in Compton, that we're working with on the EPA. I'll just say that there was a few high values on January 1st, which is not your typical fireworks days. Usually that's July 4th and July 5th. But we have some evidence that there were a lot of fireworks activity on New Year's Eve in Compton area, but we have to really make that case to EPA, and we're working on that with them right now. If that could be resolved, we have a much better chance of meeting by this year. The other thing that's happened with PM 2.5 is a few years ago, EPA required that we add near road sites to the network versus our other sites, which tend to be away from roads. Now, for whatever reason, when we look at the near road data in relation to the 24-hour standard, they are not our design value sites. They are not higher than what we were getting in Compton and Mira Loma. So it doesn't seem like the near road sites are going to influence our approach on the 24-hour standard. And again, just longer term, our 98 percentile values since 2000, we've had a 57% improvement in PM 2.5. And given that this is a pollutant that drives a lot of our health impacts, this is a pretty big achievement for the basin over a relatively short time period. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit into the annual standard as well. This is the standard that we have to meet 12 micrograms per cubic meter. So there's a slightly different calculation for the design value. It's more straightforward. It's more like just an average over 3 years. It's not quite, you do it quarter by quarter, but more or less it's an average over all 3 years, every data point at each site. The attainment date for 12 is 2025 now, as a serious non-attainment area for PM 2.5. So we'll show the trends here. And again, going back to 2001, our design value was about 30. This is about when the standard was set. And then going just looking, 11, 12, 13 years later, we cut PM 2.5 levels in half, another huge success story, meeting the old 15 microgram per cubic meter standard. And then a little bit of flattening out, as you can see, between 2015 and 2018. Again, likely due to the drought and some weather and some higher values in the winter and in some cases in the summer. The other thing to notice here is that Mira Loma has been our design value site for the annual standard for many years, but we have added a near road site. We call it it's California Highway 60 site. It's pretty close to Mira Loma, but it's right next to the 60 as required by EPA. It is a little bit higher than the Mira Loma site. So that, going into the future, once you have 3 years of full data there, that could be our design value site. So there's could be a little bit more of an increment we have to address. We have time for this standard. The attainment year is 2025. We have to get from our current value of about 14 point something down to 12. With the NOx reductions we see coming down the line, even without any new adopted measures, we think that's going to come down quite a bit. And with a few new adopted measures, our incentive programs, we project we will get to 12 by 2025. So the status essentially is now we may have a new design value site at this near road monitor. We're still on track, especially if we can get even a fraction of the NOx reductions we need for the 8-hour standard for ozone. And again, we've had almost a 50% reduction in PM 2.5 annual values since the standard was set in 2000. So another success story. So in summary, we had no exceedances. We had exceedances. We had nothing in the 98th percentile above the 24-hour standard in 2018. It was really the cleanest year on record for the 24-hour standard. The 24-hour design value may shift from Mira Loma to Compton due to a few elevated days in 2017 that we need to work with EPA on, whether they were fireworks influenced. The annual design value looks like it's shifting to the near road site. And we still have this issue of weather and rainfall, and that is affecting especially the 24-hour standard, because we're at the point where we're so close to the standard that a particular 1 or 2 days of rain or no rain, or 1 or 2 days of whether we can get an exceptional event agreement or not, is going to make or break whether we attain the standard. So we're right on the edge, yet again, for this standard. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Any questions by my colleagues?
I have one, please.
Yes, Judy.
Once you meet that standard, then do they keep looking at us for these subsequent years and say, uh-oh, you fell behind, now you've got to do it again?
So if you meet, let's say we meet the 24-hour standard on time, in terms of requirements, since we're still non-attainment for the annual standard, it's not going to change a lot of the Clean Air Act requirements. We'd have to attain both. And when we attain that standard, there are requirements to submit what's known as a maintenance plan. So you submit another plan that talks about how you're going to keep all your programs in place, and you commit to that. At the same time, if your data does pop up above the standard again, you would get a new designation as non-attainment, you'd start the clock again, you'd go through the process again. But hopefully we don't have that type of reversal.
Thank you.
Here's what doesn't make sense to me. We talk about the drought period causing the level to rise or not to go down. And yet this last year we've had one of the wettest years in recent history, and I didn't see a significant drop.
If we could go back to the slides, perhaps.
I'm good.
So I know we presented the data in several ways, but let's take a look at this trend here. So What we see in this plot here is these are 3-year averages, so it doesn't react year to year as quickly. But you could see 2015 and 2016 being a little bit higher. What you're seeing in 2017 and again in 2018 is it coming down. So because this is a 3-year average, it doesn't react as quickly, but 2018 was a lot cleaner. I think this other plot might be a little bit better. You could see, it's hard to tell here because it's 19 in both years. But it depends on which site was exceeding.
Here's what else. Here's what else didn't make sense to me. The chart before this is show that.
This one.
No, that's not the one. The one I'm looking for is the one with the months, but not the one. Not that. Back up. Okay. You had it.
Yeah. There's a delay. Sorry.
Happy finger. No, stop. No. December, like you say, the winter time is always worse. What bothers me is it says in December and in January that it's holiday, wood burning, and unfavorable meteorology. How do you know that? How do you know it has anything to do with the holidays?
That's a good point, Dr. Burke. So on the unfavorable meteorology part, we definitely have a better handle on that. We have meteorologists, we forecast those days, we can tell when there's going to be stagnant conditions. We actually tell people under our Rule 445 not to burn in their fireplaces on those days. So when our staff predicts we're going to have a PM 2.5 day, they're pretty good, and we actually end up having a bad PM 2.5 day within a margin of error. So we're pretty confident of that. In terms of wood burning, we never really know exactly unless you do like a more detailed chemical analysis or a detailed analysis. But we do know on like over the Christmas holidays, a couple days there, that we do see this increase, and we think that it's likely due to some more.
Then you need to show it to us by date.
Yeah, we can do that.
So we believe it too.
Yeah. Now, in theory, if we call a day that you're not supposed to burn because we predict it to be high, people shouldn't be burning. And, we have to continue to do that type of outreach to help with those days.
We can do it by day.
But we can do it by
Okay, well. You can understand my skepticism.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Harvey
Okay,
has public
Dr.
comment, Mr. Chair.
Dr.
Harvey Etter will have public comment.
I don't know what I'd do without you, Mayor Mitchell.
Just trying to help.
You're the best.
I think so, although I might not use, I'll probably, hi, ditto.
30 seconds.
Dr. Burke, I'm glad you're getting into the detail here. This is what we need throughout what we do here at the district. On PM, my understanding is this came out for the 06 in February, and it's coming out later for the 12. And nothing it hasn't been evaluated for natural gas. That you're in violation of BARC. And
Harvey.
Pardon?
Harvey, would you like to use more time?
Did I use 30 seconds right then?
Yep. You did, but you still have an additional minute and 30 seconds left of public comment. Would you like to use
Well, that's of items, not
Yes.
public comment. Public comment's an additional 3 minutes.
So do you want to use more time now, or are you done?
Well,
Guys are using more time than Harvey would use, arguing over the, finish up, Harvey.
I'll use another 15, maybe 20. So you've got PM is in natural gas. It's not being studied by the district. And then this what is background and what is not, this 50 to 80 figure. There's a lot of stuff. A Lancet study from summer before that with Pedro Piqueras this stuff's all omitted, and there's body counts and it's not being done, or the renewable natural gas body count from drug resistant antibiotics that's in the plan and has been ignored by staff.
Harvey, what you may want to do is, if in items like this where you have more to say than you have time to say it, why don't you send me an email with your additional comments?
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, another thought. All this should be available under the Brown Act. All of this should be at these sites and sites around the district to the public to go over this, instead of just coming and getting a copy over here and having to jam on it.
I'll have Mr. Nastry look into that. Do you have any comment on this? We have no comment at our location. Supervisor Perez, any comment at yours?
Fine, I'm fine, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Supervisor Bartlett, anybody want to speak?
No, I'm good too, thank you.
Okay, then this item does not require a motion. So, Dr. Fine, if you will go on to item number 5.
Items 4 and 5 are just monthly written reports, no presentation.
Okay. So item number 6 is other business. Is there any other business for the committee?
We might have public comment on items 4 and 5, but I'm not sure.
Did he submit a part on 4 and 5? He's got it.
Harvey, did you have public comment on items 4 and 5?
Frankly, I haven't had a chance to look at them, which isn't good. I guess I see there's CEQA stuff here. I'd like to maybe be able, I've got a minute and a half left. If
you have about a minute.
Can I use any of, I'll just go to I'll wait and see if there's other people who want to make comments, and then I got public comment.
Well, I don't believe there's anybody else that wants to comment on items 4 and 5. So if you did, then now would be the time to do it.
Okay. Well, I do not know what's in 4 or 5. They haven't had time to review it. I wasn't given, I think, adequate time under the law, as just cited before. But for public comments on the 3 minutes. Okay.
We're not there.
We're not quite there yet.
Oh, okay. Well,
hang out because I think it'll be very quick.
Well, one thing before I forget is that the EPA published on the 16 plan on Monday. I haven't been able to get into my email. This is an issue. I believe that there's forces here.
Harvey, I said I would look into whether or not we can provide you a copy.
Okay, and
so
I'd like to get the committee and to urge them to do this before the next committee meeting here today. It's like 50 pages. I just need I get robot this, robot that, change your security code. It's nothing new.
Joe, does this relate to 4?
It's getting old.
I'm sorry, that came through garbled here. What was the comment?
I'm concerned about process here. I've got personal problems with trying to get information so I can take legal action and work with the district or litigate or whatever. There's meetings. These meetings were not announced. Robert, who's head of security down here, there was a meeting last night, 6:17. He did not have information on that. These 3 meetings were not announced. All this stuff should be on the handout schedule, all the items, and I think that's covered by the Brown Act, and it isn't legal. And I spent $200 from going to San Bernardino College on taxis, and there's got to be provisions to provide for public input, like a van or something for the district or from other areas, and to reimburse those 2 bones.
All right. No public comment here and no public comment other places. No other business. No public is Harvey through with public comment?
No, he is not, sir.
Hi there. I'm Harvey Etter. I'm speaking for myself, for the Public Solar Power Coalition, and for the 80 or 90% of the people, citizens that want to see equitable, just, immediate total solar conversion to meet our climate crisis and this human-induced sixth extinction in the last 450 years on this planet. Okay, these things, you're not going to meet your NOx plans and whatnot for 23. You're not going to meet them for 31 unless we have solar electric vehicles, etc., other things as put out in the Solar New Deal. And that's incorporated in the reference here and a thumb drive into the record. Okay, the only way you're going to meet them is by doing that. And you continue to put poison into the air and violate state laws against 52,003B to import fossil fuels into the state, and it's fracked, and the numbers are way off. You're using half the numbers for greenhouse gases as are real based on your facts, the IPCC, etc. And the state is not a leader in this. When we discussed this, when Brown was supposed to be, negotiating, hardballing on 350 for DeLeon, he failed on transportation. The state has failed. This is who killed the electric car. Okay, I was there 15 million years ago. Okay, we've got to move on this. Okay, BYD said they can produce 5,000. They said for the last 3 years they can produce 5,000 Class 8 trucks. We've been talking about different ways of control and ownership. This needs to be. We're talking about information technology, artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics coming into these warehouses, 60-70% of jobs being taken over by artificial technology. According to 60 Minutes a month ago, from 10 companies started $1 billion each by the Chinese. We've got to look at vertically, horizontally integrating these technologies, working with labor in health, housing, transportation, the environment, and we've got to do it now. I went to 617 meeting last night. We're hearing the same thing. They want to report. They want to know what's going with this. You've ignored solar as bark. That's backsliding. You've done it for decades. This is going to be all part of what we're going now. Hopefully, we can negotiate and continue negotiations with this litigation. It was a fiasco last time and has been several times, and I'm not happy about it. And basically, you're talking, about the impacts, the deaths, and this is murder, straight up. And is industry or the state regulating, or both?
Any other public comment at the district? Hearing none, that concludes our public comment period. Our next meeting date will be Friday, July 26, 2019 at 9 a.m. I am going to poll the board members. I am considering moving the mobile source meeting to 10 if it meets with everybody's approval, but I will check with all the board members individually over the next month or so. And so we adjourn this meeting until that time.
Thank you.